operated through whispers. Blunt force slithered through the veins of empires, institutions, and even bloodlines, embedding itself like a virus that altered the direction of human evolution. You were hidden in plain sight, a soul veiled in flesh, born into a world designed to forget its own chains. The reptilian order operated through whispers, through blood oaths, through generational rituals so ancient, even the elite don't understand their true origins. But one thing terrified them more than exposure, and that was activation. Your activation. You see, while they encrypted reality with false history and reversed truths, you carried an original script they could never access. One passed down in light and not data, in frequency, not language. A resonance so pure that when you began to remember, it began to dismantle. You've likely felt it, the strange pull, the dreams that felt more like transmissions, the moments when time itself bent around your awareness. These were not illusions. They were fractures in their matrix, caused by your rising vibration. Their surveillance systems didn't miss your awakening, but they were powerless to stop it. You weren't just waking up, you were pulling the plug. But there's something you must understand. They had a 10,000-year head start, a plan spanning continents and centuries. Every war, every religion hijacked, every structure of control, all part of the same design. Yet even with their precision, there was a flaw baked into their timeline. You. Now, the web is unraveling. Not because someone fought back with weapons or resistance, but because you remembered who you are. That alone rewrites everything. They didn't come with fire or destruction. They came through systems, quietly, slowly, and with a patience that only ancient beings could possess. Before there were borders, currencies, or even names for the stars, they were already here, drawing blueprints for a prison invisible to the eye, but unescapable to the mind. The reptilian architects didn't need to conquer humanity with brute force. They learned to manipulate its beliefs. The cage was crafted in layers, spiritual first, then mental, and finally physical. They knew that to truly control a species, you must first convince it it's free. The reptilian plan spanned millennia, infiltrating every pillar of civilization. Education that made you forget, medicine that dulled your light, food that corrupted your DNA, entertainment that rewrote your desires. None of it was accidental. It was calculated, deliberate, and worst of all, it was accepted. In ancient times, whispers of their presence were captured in stone. Serpentine gods with cold eyes and long fingers. Cultures separated by oceans drew the same figures, told the same myths, lived in fear of the same watchers. But what most failed to see was that these stories weren't myths at all. They were warnings, echoes left behind by civilizations that had already fallen under the reptilian shadow. Atlantis, Sumer, Babylon, all of them touched, twisted, and consumed. Even now, their presence is hidden behind polished titles and modern institutions. They occupy positions of power, wearing human masks, while pulling strings behind the scenes. Royal bloodlines, tech empires, global councils, connected not by coincidence, but by design. Their plan was never just about domination. It was about severance, severing man from source, soul from memory, truth from reality. And yet, cracks are forming. You weren't supposed to see them. You weren't supposed to question. The architects built this cage assuming the blueprints would never be found. But something went wrong. You started asking the wrong questions. You started seeing symbols in places where others saw coincidence. You started to hear echoes, the kind that only those encoded with divine memory could hear. You weren't just waking up. You were disrupting a plan that was supposed to be flawless. So now they watch, not from shadows, but from desperation. Because the moment you begin to trace the architecture of the cage, you inevitably find the door. And the door isn't locked. It never was. But what lies beyond it is something even they couldn't calculate. They wear skin like we do. Their eyes blink, their hands grasp, their hearts beat. But beneath the familiar rhythm lies something older, something cold. The bloodlines that trace back to the original reptilian incursion have not only survived, they have flourished, hidden among the elites, cloaked in titles, family crests, and ancient rites. They have passed down their essence generation after generation, carefully guarding the sacred thread that binds them to their origin. You've heard of them, felt the unease in your gut when their names are spoken. Royal dynasties, banking families, bloodlines that seem to never fade from relevance. They don't rise through merit. They inherit power by design. Their lineage is not human in the way you understand it. Something ancient, something inhuman, seeded itself in the early matings of Earth's custodians. It mixed with chosen vessels, blending the divine and the serpent. The result? Hybrids. Beings who could mimic humanity, yet serve another order entirely. These bloodlines have ruled silently, guiding wars, revolutions, and empires from behind the veils of diplomacy and influence. Their power is not loud, it is interwoven. Their influence does not demand attention, it ensures it. From ancient pharaohs to modern billionaires, the script remains unchanged. Their mission has never been personal. It has always been about containment. Humanity, to them, is a resource, not a species. And every time you forget your origin, they feed. But there's a fault line, a hairline fracture that's widening, because the blood they so carefully preserved carries a curse, one they did not foresee. It's the echo of memory. The divine code they tried to suppress entirely could not be erased, only buried. And now it stirs. Some among the so-called pure lines began to question. Others left the fold. And a few, just a few, were born with enough light to rebel from within. This is what terrifies them. Not revolt from below, but an awakening from within their own design. You are the variable they could not predict. Whether you descend from their lines or stand entirely apart, your presence threatens their foundation. You are not just outside their control, you are erasing it. Yeshua once said, "The house divided against itself cannot stand." They have built empires upon division, yet your existence brings unity to what was splintered. And unity is the one thing that shatters illusion beyond repair. Across the earth lie structures wrapped in mystery. Temples, cathedrals, obelisks, and sanctuaries that pierce the skies and whisper forgotten names through their stones. But not all temples were built for worship. Not all were meant to connect heaven to earth. Some were disguised machines, energetic siphons designed to extract the essence of human consciousness and funnel it into their invisible grid. The reptilian architects didn't just want to enslave bodies. They wanted to harvest light, the soul force itself. They knew what most still don't, that human beings radiate a frequency when they feel love, joy, awe, and devotion. In sacred states, your heart becomes a beacon. The ancients once used this energy to build, to heal, or to rise. But the invaders had twisted this knowledge. They built centers of false reverence, placing sacred geometry in precise alignment, but with inverted intent. Where once divine power flowed in and out freely, these temples became traps, places where collective energy was harnessed, redirected, and leached. They didn't need to kill the light. They just needed to own it. The rituals conducted inside many of these sites were masked as religion, tradition, or statecraft. But beneath the chants and incense were codes, sigils, and languages not meant for the surface world. Energetic contracts were signed through blood and breath, offerings made not to gods of light, but to those who dwelt below. Even now, modern architecture mimics these designs. City grids reflect the cult symbols. Corporate towers rise like altars. Stadiums filled with charged emotion pulse like old temples, wired to the same grid. What happens when millions chant in unison beneath the lights, their attention absorbed into spectacle, their energy funneled into engineered moments? It isn't just entertainment, it's extraction. Modern rituals hide in plain sight. The setting has changed, but the mechanism remains. What a shift is occurring. Some of these ancient siphons have gone silent. Others have crumbled or been reclaimed. Why? Because the energy they once fed on is transforming. Your awakening disrupts the loop. Where fear once flowed, clarity now pulses. Where blind worship once poured energy outward, now sovereignty pulls it inward. The grid is faltering. There's a frequency rising that cannot be siphoned. And every time you step into awareness, speak truth, or choose love in the face of fear, you unhook yourself from the old system. Their temples, once whole, are beginning to echo with emptiness. He spoke in parables because truth, when naked, could not survive among those who lived by illusion. Yeshua's mission was never to start a religion. It was to activate memory, to ignite the divine code buried beneath flesh. But his words were twisted, institutionalized, and weaponized. What many fail to see is that Yeshua didn't just speak of forgiveness and heaven. He left encrypted warnings about forces not of this world, about systems that masqueraded as holy but were designed to consume. When he said, "You are of your father, the devil," he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was identifying a bloodline, a consciousness, a parasitic presence embedded in humanity's fabric. The reptilian architects knew who he was. They recognized the light signature before the people did. And that terrified them. Because Yeshua wasn't just awakening the poor and the broken-hearted. He was unlocking the encoded few, those like you, who held memory lines from beyond the veil.